Welcome to the Mindful Fire Podcast, a show about crafting a life you love and making work optional, using the tools of mindfulness, envisioning, and financial independence. I'm your host, Adam Cuello, and I'm so glad you're here. Each episode of the Mindful Fire Podcast explores these three tools through teachings, guided meditations, and inspiring interviews with people actually living them to craft a life they love. At its core, Mindful Fire is about creating more awareness and choice in your life. Mindfulness helps you develop self-awareness to know yourself better and what's most important to you by practicing a kind, curious awareness. Envisioning is all about choosing to think big about your life and putting the power of your predicting brain to work to create the life you dream of. And financial independence brings awareness and choice to your financial life, empowering you to make your vision a reality by getting your money sorted out and ultimately making work optional. And here's the best part. You don't have to wait until you reach financial independence to live out your vision. Mindful Fire is about using these tools to craft that life now on the path to financial independence and beyond. If you're ready to start your Mindful Fire journey, go to mindfulfire.org/start and download my free envisioning guide. In just 10 minutes, this guide will help you craft a clear and inspiring vision for your life. Again, you can download it for free at mindfulfire.org/start. Let's jump into today's episode. Aleks, welcome to the Mindful Fire Podcast. I'm so glad to have you here.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
Yeah, I'm thrilled to have you here. You know, I always like to share a little bit of how I meet the guests, but you and I were connected by my good friend Rashawn, who is actually the person who convinced me to get out of my own way to actually start this podcast. I had been batting it around for a long time, overcomplicating it, as I am known to do sometimes. And he basically just like, hey, which are you more interested in, the podcast or the blog? When I was considering doing a blog, I said podcast. He said, great, invite your first guest. That was a huge, huge multiplier in my life. And then he connected me with you, and you and I have had a couple of great conversations, and you have a ton of wisdom and insight that you have cultivated through your life and your travels. And I'm really excited to explore all of that with you here today.
Yeah, and a ton of desire to share and be useful to people. And I feel that's one of the core definitions of entrepreneurship, the distance between the intention and the actual action. So like just, I want to do this. Okay, what's the first step? Boom.
Yeah, that's can easily be complicated, but that's essentially it. And I'm getting a little bit better and better at that as I pursue this entrepreneurship life that I'm now living after having left Google, I guess, almost 6 months ago now. But what I'd love to have you start with, Aleks, is I'd love for you to share a little bit about who you are, your journey, and what you're up to in the world these days.
I got a non-conventional life story, I think it's fair to say. So I was born and raised in Russia, in St. Petersburg, in not a mediocre, but like an average environment. Average, everything average. And I wanted something different. I wanted something flamboyant.
Yeah.
And so I was very interested in like, what's outside? And Russia naturally is a pretty homogenous country. People speak the same language, mostly look the same. I mean, it's a huge country, not really true. And so I was like, okay, I want to explore. And so it just so happened that I went to Brussels. And Brussels is the melting pot of Europe. Like you got people speaking 6 languages, 10 languages, crazy stuff. And I just spoke Russian, and my English was quite broken at the time. Not really, not broken, rusty, let's say, not super fluent. And I was like, whoa, you speak 6 languages and you're like a normal person. And so it really opened up my world to realize that, whoa, there's just so many ways to do things that people employ in different places all over the world. And I was like, okay, I wanted more of that. And so I went on to live in 8 countries since then, like long term. And that really opened up my mind, many of them in my 20s. And I realized that I like really wanted to savor and get exposure into all kinds of different like ways of being of humans. And so I was like, oh, there are nonprofits. What's that like? And so I had this, stint in some nonprofit work. And then I was like, okay, what's corporations are like? And so I ended up working for a year at Bell Labs, Alcatel-Lucent in Paris, in their headquarters. And I sat 30 meters from the global CEO of a 70,000 company. So, and just immerse myself in all that politics, so much inner politics in corporations, right? So, and did a lot of learning and good stuff and all of that. And then I was like, okay, corporations, great. I did spend some time at Google as well. So it's another corporation, but that was back in 2007. So that was a different Google, I guess, than very different than now. And I also even ended up working in the Mexican government as a federal employee on a constitutional reform in telecommunications, which is, one of my educations, what I studied. And so like so disparate and different. And then I went to do an MBA at MIT because I wanted to like amplify again my choices and be able to choose out of many things that I could do and really understand what humans are up to and what I really want. I had a kind of like little idea, but was just doing what seemed shiny and interesting and expansive. And I think it's genuinely a good advice for the 20s to like really see what options there are. Then I went into the startup world. I moved to Silicon Valley and I spent 4 years in the Bay Area building startups and getting all this venture building angle to things. And it's so different from the corporate world. And yeah, just the philosophy of venture building, making something people want is a great toolkit in one's arsenal. Yeah, and my life partner, Karime, she was there and she was like, let's go travel the world. I was like, I would usually be the one saying that. So I was like, yeah, hell yeah, let's do that. And so we quit the jobs and everything that we had. We let go of the apartment we were renting, beautiful apartment. And then we also packed all our stuff, sold a bunch of stuff and packed into one carry-on each to actually travel the world for a year or a year and a half with just one carry-on each person, which was a bold move. And that was the beginning of, shedding identities and realizing that so much more than the title in LinkedIn that I have. Let's put it this way. And little did we know that it coincided with COVID. Like literally, I flew back home to Russia to change my passport. At that time, it was expiring. And then borders started closing. Like literally, I had to hop on the last plane out of Russia to reunite with my partner, with my wife, Karime. It was the last airplane that was coming out of Moscow. And I was in St. Petersburg. I remember waking up in the morning. I somehow talked to a friend and I'm in this Airbnb and still paid for many days in advance. And I talked to this friend and I opened the news and it's like this midnight, the air flights are just canceled from this country. And I was like, oops, what do I do? And so I check out and there is this last plane at 6 p.m. It's 10 a.m. and I'm in a different town. So I literally pack my stuff, tell the Airbnb person that I'm leaving, hop on a taxi, buy the airplane tickets from St. Petersburg to Moscow and then Moscow to Mexico City in the taxi, hop on that plane. And that's how our trip started. So we did a year and a half of traveling all over the world. We did 15 countries maybe. And we had this like super ambitious plan, 50 countries, in some countries 3 days, and then move on to the next country for 7 days and things like that. But in reality, life itself shaped this trip into completely something else where we would just arrive and not know where else to go. Everything's closed. You open this map, everything looks red and orange and maybe like 1 or 2 green countries. And we're like, there, we go there. So that's how we chose countries. We would spend like a month and a half in each country. That was an amazing process of shedding a lot of identities, just stripping all the way to I'm just this person, this awareness, this perception, and things are happening in life. And that's all about it. I'm not a particular titles. Like my title at the startup was, I think, VP, Vice President of whatever, business development. Such a self-inflation game we're playing, isn't it? And so having that title stripped, this MIT MBA stripped, who cares about your MIT MBA in, the middle of Morocco? And so that was a beautiful process of shedding identities and coming back to what's within, which is this idea that I feel stops us a lot of times when we are in the middle of our career or some kind of an employment. And the idea is that, okay, I know this is what I'm doing is not really ideal for me. There's this and that. Honestly, I don't really know if not this, then what. And that I feel stops us a lot. And that stopped me a lot. And so the idea of that world trip was to really ask myself that question and to see if I can answer that. And little did I know that this rabbit hole goes deep, man. And then to finalize to your question, so what I'm up to now, it's been 5 years since that trip. I can say that. And it took me 5 years of entrepreneurial journey into figuring out what these things like purpose and mission and zone of genius, superpower and talents and unique gift and life's mission and all that stuff sounds so fluffy and that so few people can actually define, especially in a simple way. So I guess I could say I figured it out. And so I've been aligning myself with that truth, and that brings a lot of satisfaction. That brings a lot of joy of living, and that brings a lot of high excitement levels throughout the day. And that's what people call flow, right? When we're so happy doing what we're doing that the mind just quiets down, like a childlike awe just from the activity we're doing, like losing ourselves in the activity. That's it. That's the flow. It's actually so simple. And so what I'm up to is my own entrepreneurial journey now around many different topics. I've become kind of like a polymath and very prolific in the amount of stuff that I produce and create, all of it from this place of excitement. It almost sounds too good to be true, to be honest. Like I'm digging it. I'm loving it. It's so good. Like I'm now a visual artist. Never in my life I thought I would call myself that. Turns out it's always been inside. It's always been like a seed of potential that's been there. I mean, if I had proper guidance, if I had someone actually speak to me through these things 20 years ago, I could have uncovered it, but I didn't. It took me 40 years of my life to get to where I am. Purpose discovery, mission discovery, conscious communities, impact entrepreneurship, venture building playbooks, sticker art are among some of the things that I do.
Very cool. Well, I appreciate you sharing that journey. I mean, cool to hear going all the way back to when you were a kid in St. Petersburg and your desire to see more and experience more. And there's the beautiful art. Yeah, I remember you showed me that last time. That's so cool. Yeah, and so just that desire to experience more of what the world has to offer, and then going and having these different experiences in corporate and nonprofit and startups, and then ultimately leaving that all behind to travel the world with your wife. You mentioned a few times this idea of shedding your identity and how this trip helped you do that. I'd love to hear you talk a little bit more about what that process was like. And, after you shed the identity, then what?
Beautiful question. Thank you. Yeah, it's a whole process. Like, it's not that identities are bad, like I just called myself a visual artist, right? That's an identity. But there is a subtle difference there. One difference is that calling myself a visual artist sits well. Like I say it, and there is inner peace. I'm like, oh yeah, I am on a mastery path of being a visual artist. But not like I would imagine what a visual artist is if I was told that like 10 years ago or 5 years ago, but in a way that is unique to me. My visual artistry is sticker art. Like, I would never guess that with just like, oh, what kind of a visual artist could I be? It would not come up. It's a process of understanding what I like. It's just so simple. It's what naturally wants to get born. Like I actually loved stickers even 10 years ago, but I overlooked it. I was like, whatever. But it actually mattered. It actually popped up in my mind and my consciousness and my awareness for a reason. Life was kind of telling me, hey, you like stickers. Don't underestimate stickers. Stickers are cool. Or infographics. That's another thing that I do. I create very cool, potent infographics. So that's a visual artistry skill. So the one piece is aligning those identities with who we really are. That's one piece. And the second piece, as opposed, right, to having an identity of I'm a VP of sales, whatever. Like today you are, tomorrow you change jobs, and then what? And the second piece is non-attachment. Like, this doesn't define me, a visual artist. Like, it's one of the things that I do. And again, maybe in 1 year from now or 5 years from now, I describe it completely different. So I'm not attaching to it. It's just a thing that I do that does sit well with me.
Got it. So it sounds like you let go of the things that were kind of external, right? They were external titles. They were maybe achievements, accolades, went to MIT MBA, like A lot of people would be very impressed by that, but that's not coming from within. It's coming from the outside. And maybe it fits, maybe it doesn't for some people, but you're saying you kind of turned inward. And on this trip, you had a lot of time and a lot of experiences that helped you connect with yourself. And you were able to turn inward and listen to what wanted to come up there and identify new identities that felt more aligned. Am I hearing you correctly?
Yeah, you nailed it. I think you're spot on. That's exactly it. It's the shift from the external validation to the internal validation.
Got it.
And again, I don't want to say that, whatever titles or education should be thrown to the garbage bin and it's all fake and it's all unreal. No, it isn't. It's more subtle than that. For example, this MBA MIT thing that you mentioned. So the MIT MBA, yes, it's a name dropping thing. It doesn't really define me, whatever. Yeah, like when I go into the US at the border, when I did, while I was studying, a lot of the officers at the border, they would tell me, oh, MIT, you must be really smart. All of them almost said that thing. Whatever, there are just degrees of that in every human being. So I'm not attaching to that. But hear this out. My specialization when I was doing the MIT MBA, I was focusing on specific things. I was focusing on innovation. Like literally, I had this certificate of innovative entrepreneurship as part of the MBA program. Then I was focusing on, innovation in video. I did a little bit of research there. I was focusing on human dynamics and social network analysis, how people, make decisions and how they behave and how that can be seen through big data before, AI became mainstream. So that I was drawn to naturally. That was super real for me. And so now as I bring myself back to the understanding of who I am, what I like, what I want to do, innovation is a big thing for me. Like that's part of my zone of genius. I innovate like crazy all the time. So it's this fine line, right? And this is super important actually. So it's not like all our past life experience has to be thrown out and I have to reinvent myself and be a completely someone else that is finally me, but not the fake one. No, in fact, a lot of the things, or maybe even all of the things that we were doing are exactly tailor-made for us. We chose them for a reason, but we need to uncover the hidden gems. Why did we do that? What exactly did we like there? What brought us there? And not only that, when we show up at the job or during, student years or whatever, one thing is what it's on paper, and another thing is what we actually did there. Because when we study, when we work, we always use our zone of genius. We cannot do otherwise. You know how some people are successful in school, at grad school, undergrad, through different means. Somebody is super studious, study the actual textbooks, and that's how they do it. Some others do not study textbooks. They talk to people a lot, and they get the nuggets of, life hacks from other people. That's how they do it, through networking. And so everybody's got their own strategy, which reflects their zone of genius. And so paying attention to that is the hidden gem, is the way to find that wisdom within.
Yeah, so it's like paying attention, I think, is a key part of it. So paying attention to the path that you default to some degree. Whenever you have a challenge, how do you make progress? How do you overcome challenges? How do you make the things happen that you're trying to make? And that kind of speaks to your zone of genius. We've both thrown this term around a little bit here, Alex. Zone of genius. Can you define that for people before we kind of explore it a little bit more?
Yeah. I want to start by saying that there is so much fluff and so much confusion around all kinds of topics that are similar. Talents, innate talents, superpower, unique gift, skills, competencies, abilities, zone of genius, purpose. There's just so much. Now, what is all of that? Like, is it the same? And so to simplify things in a way that it's just to the bare bones of it, it's really very simple. It comes down to what's natural to us, what we love doing, what we do the best as compared to other people. So if we were to like really pinpoint it and call it in the most simple words, because zone of genius sounds really cool. But then what is that? And why do we even call it zone of genius? Because the big idea here is that everybody is a genius. We're all geniuses. So when people call somebody a genius, like Mozart or Leonardo da Vinci or something like that, I think it's a mistake to think that they are geniuses and somebody else is not a genius. Because the human potential is the same in all of us. Like the acorn, the oak tree can grow from every acorn. It's the essence of our talents. It's our most pronounced, most outstanding talents as seen throughout other human individuals, right? So let's say that we have 100 talents each. And think about it. Is there anything that somebody can do that you cannot do? Not maybe at their level, of course. Like you can't compose music like Mozart, or you can't play like Michael Jordan, but can't you play basketball? Can't you play music? Can't you make music if you have the very basics of music theory? Yes, you can. Everybody can do everything, but not to the same extent. And obviously, there is nature versus nurture there, right? So if we never, ever touch upon a talent that we have, then we don't develop it. And so it stays in its dormant potential. But naturally, all of us, we have specific talents that are our top talents, our outstanding talents. And so zone of genius is nothing else but that, something that we do really well, really well. And the magic happens when we are able to pinpoint that, to rediscover that, because again, it's always within. It's nowhere to get or to buy. It's in here. It's right in here. It's always been here. And so it's about spotting them. It's about articulating them, putting it into an actual phrase. And that's where the magic happens.
Yeah, that's very interesting. And going back to what we were talking about before, about just noticing and being aware of the way that you do things, the way that you solve problems, the way that you operate in the world, and noticing these things that come easy to you and kind of thinking of them as a zone of genius makes a lot of sense. When I think back to what I consider my zone of genius or my purpose is creating opportunity through connection. And so that has always been a through line in my life. Even way back in the day when I was in university, I was doing a startup, trying to create opportunity through connection. I was trying to bring people together to do fun things in their town, make it easier for people to connect. And, I was always connecting friends together. And now I'm always doing these. Earlier this week, I was out doing my first workshop, first Ask What's Possible workshop with Google since leaving Google. And my first inkling is, let me bring people together. And every moment that I wasn't sleeping, flying, or doing that workshop, I was meeting with people and creating opportunity through connection. I saw probably 20 friends that I hadn't seen in quite a while. And it was amazing to reconnect with them. But when I think about my life and how I've gotten opportunities, how I've created opportunities from others, it was always through connecting people, bringing people together, making connections, all those kind of things. So I can see that is my zone of genius. And that's always been there, like you said.
I love it. I love it. So let's take this as an example and let me riff off that and highlight specific parts of that can take it even further for you and for everybody's listening, because this applies to all of us. Yeah, I think you're spot on. It does sound and feel like your zone of genius. It's also important to know that it's not set in stone. It's always in a dynamic unfolding, in the sense that, so you basically phrased it in a certain way just now. You remembered episodes from your past life where you showed up like that. And naturally, when you do that, you can also connect with the feeling. Like, how do you actually feel yourself in those peak experiences where you really express yourself like that, the actual moments? And spoiler, it feels amazing. It feels so good. It feels exhilarating. It feels like pure excitement. It feels like you're on top of the mountain or something. It feels awe-provoking. That's what being in one zone of genius feels like. And so then another highlight, I'm like bringing awareness into some aspects of it, right? To fine-tune it for you and to set it in motion even further, because it's about accelerating our understanding of our zone of genius and our self-expression from that zone of genius. That's the name of the game.
Mm-hmm.
And then comes the monetization. And then comes the mastery, further and further mastery of that. So the way you phrased it is not set in stone. It's not like, you print it out, you put it in front of you or at your work desk, and then you never ever revisit that again. Words is not your zone of genius. Words is a way to approximate it. Your zone of genius is you. You are your zone of genius. Words is a way to approximate it that is very useful because you can come back to it. But as you live your life, it will still keep unfolding. You will change the words. You will maybe add some things. You will remove some other things. So it's a work in progress. It's like a sculpture, and you're sculpting it till the rest of your days. So that's that. And that's the second point. And then the last point I want to make on this is the mastery, is about the path of mastery. So there's compounding effect in financing, right? When we invest and then we don't take out the interest that gets generated, we add it on, there's a compounding effect. It starts to grow real fast. It's the power laws, it's the magic of the exponential growth. And same applies here to the mastery of our zone of genius and of our expression. Because it's a power law, it's an exponential law. Again, we're taking 100 talents, we're picking up the top 99th percentile, top 98th, and top 97th. And then we take just that piece, and I'm simplifying, modeling mathematically this. So we take that, and when we double down on that, we say, I'm going to spend as much time as I can in there because that's good for me. It feels good. I show great results, and it's good for everybody because others want us to be in our best expression. I mean, they don't teach us that in school. They don't teach us that at work. They don't teach us that in kindergarten. They don't teach us that at the level of education. But the truth has always been this, that we all want others to express as them. And so when we actually consciously and intentionally make a decision to show up more as that, then it just skyrockets. There's just bonanza. The growth happens so fast, and it's just basically we take ourselves to the top 1 percentile of the planet, not even top 1 percentile, top 0.0001 percentile of that talent on the planet, of that particular fusion of the top talents. And so that takes our expertise, our productive output to unprecedented levels. And just by simple economic logic, the more unique that is at the higher quality, the more demand there is at the higher price.
It's very interesting what you're saying. Yeah, certainly that has evolved. The language that I use to describe it has evolved, even past what I just described, right? So I said creating opportunity through connection. Former guest on the podcast, her name's Marty Adler. I met her on like a random COVID video breakout room from the Wisdom 2.0 conference. And I met this woman and we really connected immediately and we chatted afterwards. And she's been like an informal mentor of mine. And she was like, what does that even mean? Create opportunity through connection. That could mean a million different things. From there, and thinking more about what I love about that, I came to connecting people with themselves and their biggest vision for their life. And so that really speaks to my other zone of genius area, which is envisioning. In all the skills finders and things, all these tests or whatever, I'm always like a visionary. I'm very much an ideas guy, and I can think really big, and I can connect ideas together and connect people together to make things happen. And so the language I use to describe it and the way I think about it has evolved and is very much in line with what I'm doing now. But I really love what you're saying is like just identify these areas and just invest in them massively. And it could allow you to really accelerate and create an exponential level of growth within them. And I try to keep it front of mind, right? I really do. But I could be doing more of it. And for me, it's like getting in conversation with somebody always works better. So trying to communicate over email or text or whatever, it's like, that's one thing. But like getting on a call or getting in person with people is a whole different thing. And so it's good to keep that in mind as some area to identify or to invest heavily.
Yeah, totally. You're already touching upon deeper layers of your zone of genius. You're identifying. That's exactly what I was saying. It's a natural process. It's never ending. It's ongoing. It's so beautiful because it brings us back to what we like doing. It's basically a direct route to a better life experience, to a more pleasant life experience.
So you coach people on finding their zone of genius. Would you say to somebody who's listening, who wants to tap into their own zone of genius, what would you say to them? What do they do? Is it just focus on what you like doing, or is there more to it? What advice would you give to someone who says, oh, this is great, I want to find my zone of genius?
Yeah, it's very simple. The zone of genius is within us already. So it's a matter of pinpointing it. And essentially, all psychological, psychometric tests, all personality tests do exactly that. That's their purpose. Their purpose is to highlight how we are different in terms of our personality to other people. That's what it comes down to. But there is so much confusion that gets created from the tests because they give you, multiple page like PDF thing. You're like, what do I do with that? Because it's all about being practical about it. It's all about being pragmatic, applying it for the benefit of our own and for the benefit of the others. So I would tell anyone who wants to connect with their zone of genius is that first, change that mindset, understand what zone of genius really is, which is what we already did in this podcast. That cuts out that noise and leaves the signal, cuts out the fluff, cuts out PDFs, the theory, and brings it into the practicality. That's super important. The second piece is to articulate that. So if you have done already tests, then look for your top talents. And some of them do that. But honestly, I don't know any other test but the one I designed, that you take the test and like, here's your top 1 talent, here's your top 2 talent, here's the top 3 talent. And they're described in a way that you know immediately how to use that in your work life, and you immediately see it within yourself. That's the second piece. It's about articulating that. Without tests, it's also possible. It's called introspection. Like you were saying, you do whatever you do during your work day and pay attention. Notice what brings me most joy, what brings me most pleasure, excitement, and what do I do especially well? There is a tricky part there. What we love doing and what excites us the most is also most natural to us. So that a lot of times tricks us into thinking that, oh, everybody can do it. Like it's so easy. Or tricks us into thinking, oh, that's not valuable because it's so easy. Far from truth. Opposite from the truth. The truth is that the easiest for us is what we should double down on and is what's monetizable and it's the zone of genius. So that's a little bit of a tricky thing there to pay attention to. That's the piece about articulation, either through introspection and attention or through testing or guidance with a coach, with a guide like myself or like few people that I know of and can recommend as well. The next piece is to connect with how it feels. So as you go about your day, pay attention. You're doing a particular task. How far removed is it from your zone of genius, that task? As you're about to start it, or as you finished it, or in the process? Like, are you actually excited about this? But again, it's not a binary thing. It's not like, I'm not excited, I'm excited. There are degrees of excitement. So how excited am I? And if that question guides you every day, then that's already a super direct route to connect with the zone of genius more. And think will just naturally, the insights will come naturally in the right moment for you. Then the third piece is the activation or the monetization. And there are 2 parts to it. There is the monetization as in, how do I align what I do at the current role with my zone of genius? How do I volunteer for tasks that are more for me? And how do I delegate some other tasks that are not for me? Or if I'm looking for the next gig or job, then what is that going to be? How do I find something that is as aligned with my zone of genius as possible? Because that's the recipe for actually enjoying the activity that you do. And then there is the path of mastery, like I was saying before, which is, okay, when you know your zone of genius, double down on that, learn a particular skill that goes exactly in line with that. So if you're saying you're a visionary and you envision things, how can you take your capacity, your ability to create visions to the next level? What kind of visions do you create? What do you work with? Infographics, ideas, structures? Do you speak it out loud? Do you draw it? Do you write it? What kind of envisioning do you do? What kind of frameworks for envisioning exist? Ask ChatGPT or AI, any AI model. I want to learn more about envisioning. Speak to it. This is what I understand envisioning is. Boom, boom, boom. You just free flow, talk to it. take me? What's my next level? How do I go from there? What one competency can I develop? Oh, this is a crazy prompt I'm going to give you guys. What's the one action, if repeated again and again, contributes the most or is the highest leverage for advancing my mastery of my zone of genius? Oh, you ask that and you get some good responses, and then you can, make your own choices. And
Interesting. So yeah, this idea of focusing on excitement, what excites you. There was another guest on the podcast. Her name's Sarah McCrum, and she wrote a book, or she says the book came through her. It's called Love Money, Money Loves You. And I think she was on episode 73 and 75 of the podcast. But what she said is that focus on enjoyment as the metric of success, not money, not productivity, just enjoyment. How much do I enjoy this thing that I'm doing? And try to maximize that. Not intentionally try to maximize it, like forcing it, but just focus spending time on things that you are enjoying. And it sounds like that is a similar philosophy.
100%, 100%. That's the key. That's the code. They also call it follow the bliss or follow your excitement. Enjoyment, bliss, excitement, awe. These are all words to describe the inner feeling, how that feels, right? And we can use different words, but the truth of it is that it feels freaking good. It feels like,
Yeah.
I want more of that.
I can't believe that this is happening.
There are degrees to it. And by following that thread, by following that path, we basically, climb that rope of excitement, which reflects as higher excitement levels throughout the day and higher frequency of access to those states and that stuff during the day.
Very cool. Aleks, one of the things that this podcast focuses on is crafting a life you love. And I know that you, coming back from this trip, have really, like you said, you shed the identity. You've been really focused on following the excitement and truly living intentionally, crafting a life you love. So I'd love to hear a little bit about how you do that, right? How you think about it, how you actually do it in your day-to-day. And yeah, any tips that the audience can take away to start doing it in their life in small and big ways.
I love the question and I love this topic for your podcast. I love it. Yeah, for sure. So what we just discussed, the whole excitement piece is a huge part of it. Like just that itself takes you to a life you love more and more. Because the professional is just such a big part of our life, right? It's something that, and I'm all about practicality, pragmatism. I actually like the word pragmatism. The definition of pragmatism is doing something that is not ideal or perfect, but it's optimal. It's something that just makes sense in the given current circumstances. I love that energy. And so the other piece is the whole mindfulness piece, or we could call it, different names. Mindfulness, we can use the word mindfulness. We could say depth, we could say awareness, we could say consciousness, how conscious we are, how our level of presence, how much we are in the present moment, as opposed to ruminating about what happened and getting stuck in scenario building. Nothing against envisioning. It's beautiful when it's done intentionally, not on automatic. And so the way it reflects in our life, and I want to make it super practical, and this is something that is a very fresh idea. I haven't heard anyone else talking about it in this way, is quality of life. Because the more present we are, the more mindful we are, the more aware we are, the more intentional we are, the more conscious we are, the more quality opens up in everything that we do. And so excitement was the professional part. And by the way, this applies to the professional part too, but this is beyond the professional part, because the impact we create, the lives we touch, the value we create is the professional piece. But then there are things outside of that. There are relationships with our loved ones, with our family, with our friends, with all kinds of groups. Then there is wealth, and in many ways, abundance, wealth, finance, economy, money, right? Hugely important, among other things. Then there is where we live, our environment, how our home looks like, what the lighting is like. Can we touch the ground, walk on the grass like you can over there? Then there is also growth, spirituality, growth, just feeling like we're growing, feeling like we're not stuck in the same place, but we're actually advancing. When we feel like we're actually, spinning the wheels and not really growing, you know how that feels. That feels like stagnation. That feels like I'm stuck. I'm not advancing, but I want to. People are aware of it to different extents, but it actually matters to every human being a lot. Let's see if I'm forgetting any key aspect. I mean, there is sexuality, there is aesthetics, friend relationships. So there is like loved ones and there is friend relationships, many aspects of life. And so in all of them, there is quality. We experience certain quality of that aspect. And the depth, the awareness, the presence allows us to tap into deeper layers of that quality. It's directly correlated. It's directly proportional. It's the same thing. As the more aware we are of how we live, the more we realize that like, oh, there are this and this component and aspect of my home that I have actually ability to change and tweak and improve. And this is how I like things. But if we don't realize, by definition, then we can't act on those things. And so working on mindfulness, working on awareness, presence, being in the present moment, all of that is a direct pathway to improving quality of life across all aspects of life. I have developed maps of quality of life that are super easy. It's just a PDF sheet. One can look at it and immediately see where they are, because it basically shows where a human being can be. Everybody is somewhere on that map. And there's no test required. You just look at it and you're like, oh, okay, on wealth, I'm here. On impact, I'm here. On growth, I'm here. On love and relationship, I'm here. On home environment, I'm here. And things like that. So I'm happy to share the link. I have it in different languages even. And basically that can already like open the mind to, oh, okay, that's what's available for me. I want this. I want to set this as a goal to move from this box to that box. That's the second component of crafting a life you love. Basically choosing the environment you live in to be reflective of how you like things and acting on those.
Okay, so we'll make sure to have that link in the show notes so people can check out that map and find out where they are and how they can move to the next level. All right, Alex, let's switch gears now into what I call the Mindful Fire Final Four. You ready?
Let's do it.
All right, so the first question's about envisioning, right? You've got a lot of different aspects of things that you're working on. Curious to hear about what is your big vision for, say, the next 5 years of your life? What are you super excited to make happen in your life?
Well, I'm planning a move to Portugal, potentially south of Lisboa. That's one. And all my projects that I've been working on, they're converging into one meta project. Like all the pieces that seemed disparate and disconnected are part of the same thing. So basically what I am creating, and it's already there, is an ecosystem of conscious living, an ecosystem of consciousness expansion, an ecosystem of improvement of quality of life optimization, of being in the flow, living on purpose, doing stuff that feels aligned and good and gives the feeling of I'm meant to do it. So it's a whole ecosystem and there are different modules to it and they all plug together. Basically, a person comes into that ecosystem and it's kind of like an inspiring alternative for living. So they zero in on their zone of genius. They see how that helps them align whatever they're doing in terms of professional life with their zone of genius. Then they see what areas like missions or tasks they want to take on, which with AI can be very powerful to essentially find a dream job quite quickly. I also do like a dream job consulting or sessions type of thing, dream job coaching with AI, where we take all that inner alignment and project that onto aligned roles and projects, organizations where one would be, most happy. And then that goes all the way into creating like a profile or map the assets and resources that the person already has. Then it goes into an educational plugin for leadership development, acceleration of growth into the potential that we have, into venture building. I've created powerful playbooks for entrepreneurship, how to start something from absolutely nothing, from zero, that is never zero, that is this that we have inside, all that abundance and beauty that just wants to come out at all times, nonstop, converting that into a startup, because you are the startup. I am the startup. Everybody is a startup as founders. And that's what they call founder market fit, is finding that alignment and then creating out of that. It's a cornucopia. It's a cornucopia of eudaimonia, as I say. Cornucopia is abundance, that, horn of abundance that goodness comes out of, and eudaimonia is a life well lived. It's a Greek concept from Aristotle and Plato times, which was like the goal that they taught in their academy that they had, which was one of the goals was eudaimonia, how to live a life well lived. So I think that's what we're all after, because we're all in this boat together. It's the same curriculum. It's the same learning curriculum for all of us humans.
Yeah, I really love to hear that, because even since you and I met, I don't know what, 2-3 months ago, this has converged more and more. When we first met, you described, 4 related, but disparate areas of your work and your business and your life. And more in the conversations we've had, you've kind of aligned those things. And I also have found that alignment more and more. The podcast helps the coaching business. Workshop business could help the coaching business. The concepts are the same, right? It's all about envisioning. It's all about thinking big. It's all about connecting people with themselves and their biggest vision for their life. And it's just different flavors, different doorways to the same concepts and the same ability to create the life that you want, or the work that you want, or the team that you want. You're seeing that as well in your work. All right. So the second question is, what piece of advice would you give to someone early on their path to financial independence?
I would say, do what you're doing. If you're at a job that you don't particularly like, don't pull the trigger. Don't quit just yet. Hang on, stay there, unless there is, abuse or whatever, and you have to be out, then get out. But otherwise, continue what you're doing. Find ways to align that with yourself by choosing aligned projects, by choosing aligned tasks. And chances are nobody will do it for you but you. So the whole alignment, inner alignment piece and whole self-understanding piece is really a must. It's not an option. It's not an option. If you want to improve your life, and financial independence is a big part of improving life, right? Wealth, as I said, is a hugely important part of life, not the only one, not the most important one, not like, that we should go crazy about, but it is an important part of life, no doubt. One of the most important, we could even say. Love, health, wealth, growth, I would say, maybe these 4, or happiness, right? Which is the inner growth brings us happiness. And so don't quit, but start doing this inner alignment work, because the milestone that you're going towards is what they call creator economy, because we are all entrepreneurs. We're all creators. And it has always been so. We wake up in the morning, we create, and we are entrepreneurial. We do something. We don't stay in bed. We do something. So it's just a matter of waking that up within ourselves, all that immense potential and beauty and capacity and creativity and uniqueness, because we're all unique, and we need all of us to bring that uniqueness into life, so that we all rise together, we help one another, and we illuminate one another with all that beauty that each one of us brings. And so inner alignment work and creator economy and impact entrepreneurship is a way to financial abundance. And so this is the path for me. This is the path that I would recommend anyone early on this path, is do what you're doing, find ways to grow what you're doing, find ways to align what you're doing so that you enjoy what you're doing as much as possible, and think long-term or medium-term to you as a creator that is creating out of you, because it's never been any other way, which from inside we create.
Very cool. The third question is, what piece of advice would you give to someone getting started with meditation and or mindfulness?
Okay, this is going to be a little unconventional. I would not recommend, the typical paths that people take. What are the typical paths that people take? There are 3, I would say. One is to start meditating with an app. The second path is start doing yoga. And the third path is, I guess, like reading about it. Reading about it is a path people also take, like reading about spirituality or law of attraction or some of those concepts. And I wouldn't recommend any of these 3. I would recommend my courses, actually, to be honest. It's a commercial plug, I guess, but I don't know anything like a better entry point. The whole point is that meditation is not what you think. It goes deep. And it's like, there are the simplest things like collaboration. What is collaboration? Or what is self-understanding? Or what is inner growth? What is growth? What is meditation? It goes deep. And the point is that it's very important to learn someone who has gone through the depth. The tricky part is that we don't see how deep someone else is. We only see up until our depth. Like we can only see up until there. We can see that like, how deep am I? How deep is Adam as compared to you listening to this? How could you tell? We can only see up until where we are. And then we kind of like peak and like, oh, deeper. Or it goes deeper than I can tell. But then how deep, you can't see. And so that's the tricky part. But the deeper the person is, the shorter path to all the benefits of meditation and mindfulness they can bring about. So I'm not saying choose your guru, but I am saying you have to find someone as deep as you can. And how do you do that when you don't know how deep people are? Well, you got to do what you can. And what you can is that you find the deepest person you know of that sounds most embodied and least charlatan, and you ask them, who can I learn from? Who is the deepest person you know? You may even do, a few rounds of that, and you find someone. That's important. That's important because it's a long journey. It's a long journey. It's a lifetime journey. And so it's important to start off the right foot. And another one, real brief, is listen to your own intuition. Like if you resonate, it's about resonance a lot. So if you resonate with me, check out some more stuff that I have produced. Check it out. If you resonate with someone else, check out their stuff. Trust that.
All right, Aleks, the last question is, how can people connect with you online, connect with your work, and learn more about what you're up to and follow along?
Yeah. I have a ton of different programs that I've developed. You can check my link tree. It's very easy. Just go to my link tree and you'll see a bunch of free resources, a bunch of ways to engage, a bunch of containers. I do a ton of work because I really want to be useful to all of you, to anybody who wants to receive from me. And the most effective stuff is to work with me one-on-one. That's personalized. That's, the short path. That's the shortcut. That's the life hack. That is the most conducive to actual results. Because I'm not into spiritual entertainment. I am into results. And a lot of people out there are into hooking people to their products for as long as possible. I have nothing against therapy and therapists. I love it. I recommend it, especially to people that are starting off. But think about the business model. All language courses. Basically, the business model is that you start and you never finish. Years and years and years and years of monthly subscription. And I am a proponent of result-based work. Link tr.ee/integral evolution.
Okay, perfect. So we'll make sure to link that in the show notes as well. Aleks, I love this conversation. Thank you so much for being here and sharing your wisdom with the audience. I'm sure you got a lot out of it. I know I learned a bunch, so thank you for being here.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I love sharing. Want to be really useful to everybody. We're in this together. I'm no better than anybody else. I'm not creating fan base. I'm not creating fandomship. We're in this together. We're equals. We're all growing. And guess what? We're always being guided by someone. Someone's helping us climb the ladder of growth. And we are helping somebody else as well. All of us, no exception.
Very cool. Thanks again, Aleks, and we'll catch you next time.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Adam. This was a blast.
Thanks for joining me on today's episode of the Mindful Fire podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, I invite you to hit subscribe wherever you're listening to this. This just lets the platforms know you're getting value from the episodes and you want to be here when I release additional content. If you're ready to start your Mindful Fire journey, go to mindfulfire.org/start and download my free envisioning guide. In just 10 minutes, this guide will help you craft a clear and inspiring vision for your life. Again, you can download it for free at mindfulfire.org/start. Thanks again, and I'll catch you next time on the Mindful Fire podcast.